The UK national debt is a bigger problem than I think most people are willing to admit. What was already a devastating forecast by the OBR is itself something of an optimistic projection for reasons I explain in this video. But also in this video, why I think this government and perhaps many governments are telling you things that are not quite true and exaggerating what they say when they are really working for working people. I'll explain why I give that opinion in this video. And of course, we are here on my money channel, as I like to call it, Daniel Smith. Please do subscribe for tips and guidance on creating wealth, creating business, and the lifestyle that you want. But first of all, the OBR has said that the UK and the public finances are in a vulnerable position because of Keir Starmer's U-turns on welfare. Now, obviously, you will have heard that they were looking at cutting back lots of welfare and lots of U-turns and concessions were made, leaving a gaping hole of unfunded projections, which they now have to fill. And Labour being Labour, as Rishi Sunak said, the only way they're going to fill that, I think, is with sharp tax rises in the autumn, which are already being hinted in the news. So why do I think that it's optimistic? Well, they've based a projection right up to the 2070s based on an average growth moving forward and said that the national debt is projected to be 270% of the GDP by the 2070s, which itself is pretty poor. However, the reason I think that that is optimistic is because they've based this on an average productivity growth of around 1.5% for that period. But in reality, that is actually closer to 0.5% in recent years. And if this continues and that level of growth continues over that length of time, it won't be 270% of the GDP, the national debt that is, by the 2070s. Instead, it's going to be well over 600% of GDP. Meaning this is frankly unsustainable. We're already spending as a country £100 billion a year servicing national debt, which is higher than other budget departments like defence and education and so on. And so this is now leading to what I think of as really not quite true statements, shall we say, put out by our ministers. For example, we have all of the usual and expected posts by Keir Starmer and other ministers. For example, here he says, working people are better off with Labour. I'll come back to why I don't think that's true in a moment. The Labour Party. Labour is the party of working people. And Rachel Reeves, Labour is on the side of working people. So they're all at it. But there is a bit of a solution, which I'll come back to later in the video. But first of all, let's take a look at why I think these are not quite true. Because if we look at actual statistics here, the Office for National Statistics, looking at the labour market overview, that is labour as in the working market, not Labour the party, looking at June 2025 and some of the figures herein. The main points here, the estimates for payrolled employees in the UK decreased by 55,000 between March and April 2025 and fell by 115,000 between April 2024 and April 2025. Now, it would be unfair to say that all of this is Labour's fault, but cumulatively, they've really made a hash of it. It goes on when looking at February to April 25, the period comparable with the Labour Force survey estimates, payrolled employees fell by 78,000 over the quarter and fell by 51,000 over the year. So again, to repeat for emphasis, payrolled employees fell by 115,000 between April 24 and April 25. This is getting worse, not better. So now let's look at vacancies. So if people are not in work, they are looking for work. The bit in red, total estimated vacancies were down by 150,000 in March to May 25 from the level a year ago, and 59,000 below their pre-coronavirus January to March 2020. Whereas many costs, such as private renting and house prices, are going up. For example, the average UK monthly rent increased across the UK by 7% in the 12 months to May 2025. In England by 8.5%, 4.5% in Wales, and the average UK house price increased by 3.5% to 265,000 in the 12 months April to 2025. So everything is going up and getting more expensive. Now, this is having a knock-on effect to whether people can afford to pay for things, such as an unexpected expense. Now, this is the economic activity and social change in the UK real-time indicators for the 10th of July 2025. One of the main points here is that in June 2025, around 1 in 4, 26%, of adults reported that they would be unable to afford an unexpected but necessary expense of just £850. This is the highest proportion reported since 2024. The initial findings for June from the data publishing on the 18th of July 2025. But then also looking at some of these charts here, which is under consumer behavior indicators, looking at the total monthly direct debit average transaction amount, you can see here going up significantly. The failure rate of those direct debits has gone up by 6% on the year before, indicating that people are increasingly unable to meet their direct debit payment obligations, meaning of course that they are now failing to pay for many more things that presumably are essential if they are set up on a direct debit. Not everything is essential, which is where I'm coming to this second half of the video. But before I move on to the solution to all of this, or at least a way for you to work towards that solution, I just have to say that I think it is a little bit disingenuous for this government or any government to be saying that they are working on the side of working people when you have employment rates falling, vacancy rates falling, costs going up, and people unable to meet, 26% of people unable to meet an unexpected payment of just around £800. Now, I've sat down with many people before now and discussed how they can get themselves out of a bit of a mess, where they can save money here and there. And the best way of doing that, much like trying to lose weight, get fit, etc., is jump on the scales or test your fitness. The same is true for money. Now, I have a solution that I'm going to talk you through. It's on my website, blackbeltbarrister.com/downloads. It is free. You do have to register, but this is a free resource. I will be filling this up with many more free resources. It is a household budget document that you can download and populate with all of your figures. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't share it with me. I'm not interested in having those details. It's private for you and it's a free resource. But what this does is allows you to document absolutely everything in and absolutely everything out. It will then show you whether you have any money left over to save up for an emergency pot, or if you have that money available to pay off debts. There are multiple debt strategies. There are two primary strategies here. I've dealt with those in detail in another video. But let's take a very quick look through this spreadsheet first. So top left-hand side, you won't touch these top figures. These are automated totals. I'll probably make these locked so you can't edit those accidentally. But you'll put your figures in here. For example, this is wages, a net wage of $3,250. That is me taking the UK national average salary of one person plus another £1,000 from a partner to put into here. Or some people obviously have more than that anyway, but this is just me throwing some figures in to show you how this works. These are all of the income, any benefits that you get, any side hustles you might make a few extra pounds with. And then you've got your fixed expenses, those things that you have to meet every month. So these direct debits, which are most of which essential, not all of which will be essential, you understand. I mean, TV, I've put £30 in here. I'm well aware that many TV packages cost significantly more than £30. But as I say, I've just thrown some figures in here. Then you've got food expenses. I don't know where you shop. It doesn't matter where you shop. What matters is how much you spend on a regular basis. This will require you to go through your receipts and be brutally honest, not just I'm budgeting £100 and then you go and spend whatever every month and you don't keep track of it. If you want to get on top of these things, you absolutely must put them all down, document them month on month, and ideally you will have one of these sheets per month and have every single month like this, how much you spent that month. And then you'll be able to chart later on. I'll probably do another page on here where you can chart back your expenditure on different things and see where that starts to flag up concerns. So you've got your expenditure here, you've got takeaways and restaurants. These are two of the areas people can save the most amount of money, because even just that £50 on takeaways, this is per month, is not a lot when you are spending money for a family. Restaurants, you can go out and spend a couple of £100 in a restaurant without batting an eyelid. And so this is £250, which if you do every single month, that there alone is where you'll see it comes really important a bit later on. Then you've got things like children costs, clothes, nursery fees, etc., pets, transportation costs, your car, your fuel, etc. Other debts, let's say you've got credit card costs and you're spending £200 towards that. It would also show you in row 3 the percentage of your overall is going to each of these areas. And then other expenses such as holidays. Most people are going on holidays. I am here to be brutal and say if you want to get out of debt and get yourself into a comfortable position, you need to eliminate those, at least for a few years. You're not going on holiday. You're not eating out at restaurants. You are absolutely putting everything in to get rid of debt, aggressively paying down that debt, getting rid of it so that you can then start to save some money, put some money in a tax-efficient, cost-effective way. For example, a stocks and shares ISA. I have various places that I will recommend to you in other videos. I'm working with companies at the moment to bring to you content where I can partner with them to bring to you recommendations. So again, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you want to receive those later on. But holidays, certainly, I think that is something you need to get rid of. Now, if you look at the very end here, you've got total of a deficit of £119. Now, I haven't been particularly aggressive in the costs and the regular expenditure that I've put in this spreadsheet. Now, bearing in mind what I've said here, these wages are for one person working average salary full-time and one person working part-time. So perhaps a young couple with a young child or whatever. At least one person in the comments will say this is an unrealistic figure, but these figures vary wildly. So these are just for you to be brutally honest of what your figures are in here. This is an example. So to that one person that's going to leave that comment, this is just an example. I'm going to leave your comments elsewhere. But if you're brutally honest and you put all your figures in here, you will know what your end net or minus figure is after you've spent everything that month. And only when you put all of this down and be brutally honest month on month, you will know exactly where you stand, and then you know what you can invest in. But back to whether the government is really on the side of working people, given the fall in employed status and the fall in vacancies, and this U-turn leaving a big gap of funding to fill, we get reports like this from many newspapers. This is The Guardian. The fall in the UK GDP puts the focus back on the expectations of tax rises in the autumn budget. Depressing data comes as Rachel Reeves and her team were daring to hope business confidence was recovering. Shock, horror, it's not. And from the BBC, we are heading for significant tax rises. Two very different reports have reignited the UK economic gloom over the past 4 days. Friday's economic figures showed a further monthly dip in the UK GDP. In May, earlier this week, the officer forecaster for the Office of Budget Responsibility said Britons face daunting risks, including the possibility that levels of government debt could soar 3 times the size of the economy. And for reasons I've said, it could be far, far worse than that. So I think that they are going to do another round of tax rises in the autumn. They're probably going to attack businesses and say they've got to pay a little bit more for employer national insurance again, and a little bit more of this and a little bit more of that, and all of which convinces me they're not really on the side of working people. And if they are, and they genuinely believe they are, then in my view, they are naive because they don't understand business, because you don't grow a business and you don't grow an economy by taxing the hell out of it. But if you want to get on top of these things, I urge you do that now. Download my spreadsheet. It's available for free on the website. Do be brutally honest with yourself. And if you want to see me examples of them, I will anonymously have a look at it and be brutally honest and tell you where you can save money. So with that, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.